All right. Welcome back, guys. So, gonna make another video here. Before I hit play, actually, I had a request from Mr. Adam to make a video on multiplayer strategy. Sorry about that. So, obviously, I made a bunch of videos on multiplayer rounds. I kind of talk through shot selection and why I'm doing what I'm doing, talking through the shots I'm going for and trying to make. But I think what he's getting at is just kind of what's my overall strategy to be successful in multiplayer. So I'm going to talk about what I think is the most effective strategy to kind of be successful. Not necessarily the strategy I employ at all times, because it may not be as fun and as exciting. Sometimes it's fun to hit those big shots and kind of try to show off a little bit, especially if you're playing players that you know. That's definitely not the best strategy if you're trying to move up the leaderboard and be successful and consistent. So I'm gonna hit play. We'll talk a little bit about it, but that's kind of the background of what I've had the most success with is when I really kind of try to be disciplined and try to have a strategy and stick with it, no matter what holes pop up and no matter how much I want to make a certain shot. So I think the best approach to it is I don't think you need to be overly safe. You gotta be able to assume some risk. Otherwise, you're just not going to be able to compete with some of these top players. You got to realize when it's the appropriate time to take chances and when it's better just to kind of play it safe. So I'll try to have that in mind as I'm going through the round. So here we go. Let's see if we can get around. Definitely when you're starting a round, you want to take a look at how many players you're playing against. And if you recognize those players and how good they are. If you've played enough, you kind of know which players play it safe or which players don't make a whole lot of mistakes, which players take a lot of chances. You want to take a look at the layout, see how many par fours, how many par fives, how many par threes. It gives you an idea of kind of how many chances you might have to make up some strokes in case you lose a stroke. So here we go. We got a solid card with three really good players. I don't know any of them well enough to know like how exactly they play, other than I know they're gonna score well and not make a lot of mistakes. So this one, I do have an ace line, but it's a little more risky, so I'm not throwing that very often. I either throw the Beast or the Accurate Glide Sapphire. The Beast is a little shorter, so with this wind, I'm choosing the Sapphire here. And again, I'm just trying to make the safest throw here to give me a nice shot at eagle. I don't want to go at the basket too much to where I have a shot at going in the water. So keeping it nice and safe. No reason throwing my ace line here. I'm not down any strokes. It's not really going to gain me anything other than a slight chance at making the ace and a highlight shot. So we got the eagle, tied with the top three. This one, I kind of have only one approach at this. There's no ace line, so it's just a matter of what your best approach is to get through that gap and give you a shot at eagle. So I like this approach a lot. This is my line. I have a lot of success here. Even if I get a dead skip, it's usually going to get me through. I don't know if I put enough hyzer on. I'm going to have to get some luck here. So we got a little lucky there. But again, I just stick with my line that I'm most confident with, and there's only really one play on this hole, no matter the wind, at least for me. And with that line, again, a lot of times I'll get right up next to the basket, get a tap in, get a pretty easy eagle. I'm not having to throw it in very far. Hi, sweetie. So it looks like we've already got two of them, strokes on two of the guys, tied with. So this is a good example of a hole. So I'm already tied for first with two players, or with one other player. There's really no reason to be overly aggressive. Yes, I can hit this ace, but it's also risking going long. So I'm just going to throw this safe with the instinct and play for the birdie. I'm trying to kind of combat my desire to get an ace, because I've got this ace several times, but there's also been times where I go for it and I end up a little long in the trees, and then it's just a little bit of a sketchy birdie chance. And there's really no reason to take that risk here in the situation that I'm in. Third hole, I'm already tied for first with one other player. So yeah, that's a great example of a hole where a lot of times I'm just going to run it. and I really shouldn't in this situation. So I'm trying to stick with my strategy that I think is going to be most effective. This one, I have an ace line with the glide skip, but it's kind of a silly option again at this point. I'm not down any strokes, and if you go long into the bush, then you can get into some trouble and have trouble with the birdie. So I'm just throwing the glide roll. It's a nice safe option here. Just turn it a little bit through the gap just like that, and it'll slide up for my birdie. That bush right there, if I were to throw the skip and I didn't have it exactly on line, then there's a chance it ends up on top of that hill behind that bush, and it makes for a much more difficult birdie shot. So there's no reason to go for that ace there, even though it's tempting and even though I've gotten it several times. So the difficulty that I have in multiplayer is I might get bored sometimes with this strategy, and I might meet players that I know and that I've talked with and that I want to show off to and get a nice highlight shot. So I tend to play way more risky than I should. Same with this hole. So you can go for the ace, but it's very risky because if you have it even close and just miss it, you're going to end up OB long. So I like to throw the glide turn on this one. It's probably too much disc, but this is going to be pretty good. I think a lot of people probably go glide roll on that, but I like to go glide turn. It just gives me a little more distance and a little more slide. Keep it nice and low. Put some hyzer on it to kind of combat the turn, and it usually works really well for me there. But again, no reason to try to run this one or that last one. This one, I'm pretty much running every time. This is probably a situation where I shouldn't, especially with this wind. I'm just worried because I haven't thrown the safe shot in so long on this hole that I don't know what I'll do. But the better option, so my disc to run it is the Warship. I'm going to throw the Svi or the Fuse. This is probably the safer of the discs. It's not going to be long enough to make it, but it's just a nice straight. You're not going to go too far to where you're going to get behind those trees. So that was definitely the smarter play versus throwing the Warship and trying to ace it. Maybe even missing up top and getting stuck up there, or going way too long or even out of bounds with that wind. So this one, I only have really one play off the tee. I like to slide to the right. This is the glide skip rive. I like to put my chevron, my middle chevron, kind of right in between the wall and those spikes there, and put a little bit of turn on it. This is looking pretty good. I try to stay left to the hill. It's tough to do. Oh, come on, dang it. So it's hard to do, but when I do, I feel really confident in my chances of making this one. At this distance, I like to go with the harp. It gives me a little more distance than my pure. And if I threw the Svi or the Warship, I'd have to power down a little bit here. So I'm going to be able to go full power here. Make sure I put enough. Come on back. Oh, we just missed it to the right. I get scared a little bit. I probably put too much anhyzer just kind of because I don't want to go in the water. But I still gave myself a shot at that. And we're still tied for first with Mr. Martin. And we only got a one-shot lead. So very tight. Don't want to make any mistakes here, especially these last couple holes. So depending on the wind on this, it'll change what disc I throw. Usually I'm throwing the glide roll. I like to put the top chevron just right in the middle of the gap there. And we're going to pull this pretty much straight down. It's going to turn a little bit against the wind, and then it'll come on back. Probably a little long, but hopefully we hit something like, oh my goodness, no. That almost popped up into the basket, and instead, shoot, we might be in trouble here. See, that's just, sometimes you just get bad luck, man. That was a great shot. Probably a little too much, but that's horrible. So I don't really even know what this bush, oh shoot, I'm running out of time. 77. No. That's brutal, man. See, sometimes you can do everything right. I probably could have disked down to like the Accurate Glide Sapphire, but that was a great, 9 times out of 10 that hits that and just stops there and doesn't pop up like that. So it's just a horrible break. And sometimes you're just going to have rounds like that where there's one shot that just costs you big time, even though you did exactly what you wanted to, just like I did. But man, that's frustrating. This is a glide turn. I turned it a little too much. It should still be safe. Maybe. Oh, we got lucky. I couldn't tell if Jer... Oh, I'm tied with Marchand, huh? Dang. I don't know. I didn't see if anyone went in the water. Maybe we'll get lucky here and not lose points, but that's pretty frustrating, that last shot. It's another thing about this game. If you let a shot get to you, then you just start making mistakes because you're so frustrated and heated about what just happened, and then you just don't think about the next shot and you start making mistakes. So we got lucky here. We're going to end up getting a couple points just based off this last hole. Should have had a solo win there, but unfortunately we tied. Oh man, so that's frustrating. There you go. So that's a great example, that round, of kind of doing everything right, sticking with your strategy. Still kind of backfires on you, just some really bad luck, but sometimes the bounces go your way and sometimes they don't. Still got 2 points there, so can't complain. Any points are good. So anyway, let me know if you like this. I tried to talk more about strategy rather than so much shot selection. Again, my challenge is just sticking with my strategy, because it's not always easy when you want to make good shots, but that's kind of the best approach to being successful in multiplayer, in my opinion. Hope you enjoyed, guys. As always, thanks for watching me play some DGV.